So people, I've often thought what it takes to be the smartest guy in the world. And it's not hard to figure out. You can do one of two things. You can, actually three. You can go to a guru on a hilltop, or you can grab a dictionary and read every single word that's in there and learn what it means. And to supplement that, you get an encyclopedia. This is the F volume right here. A lot of times I have to do research for Nexus. And the latest one I looked up was flamethrowers, because I didn't really know anything how they worked. Well, now I do. And I also, right above that says flame test. So if you want to, this goes back to high school, if you want to find out what compound is in the flame, you look at the color, and the color identifies what it's based in. Like calcium is orange-red, and copper gives an emerald green color. Potassium flame is violet. Now, isn't that cool? So we're going to put this aside for right now, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's going to happen in this live stream here. First of all, as some of you know that are tuning in right now, we've had the most amazing response, all in hopes of keeping us afloat financially. This isn't the 80s when I would get all this work coming in from comics. And it was wonderful while those decades lasted, but it's different now. I don't really want to work in comics because I've said it all. In the comic book industry itself, the rates are so low I couldn't even afford to work for them anymore. I remember I got a call from DC one time, and they wanted to ask if I could reduce my cover rate, because I always painted my covers like an illustrator would. And they came back and said, "Well, can you take this amount of money?" I said, "No, I can't do it for that. I've been doing it for that money for a couple of years now, just to give you guys a break. And now I need you to step up." And their response was a very cordial. The painted covers don't sell any better than the black and white covers. And I thought, since they have 100 variants these days, and that's been going on for God knows how long, I understood their point of view, and I wasn't bothered by it. As long as people tell me the truth and are just completely honest with me, I don't have any problem with dealing with stuff. Second of all, actually foremost, is some of the people that have been saving our buttocks when it comes to their donations. Couple days ago, we made this announcement online that I couldn't even afford to buy a new tube of white oil paint. I just used my last one a couple days ago. It's called Permablah oil paint. And I've always used this stuff. Everyone uses Permablah when it comes to white oil paint. And white is the color that everyone uses more than any other color. So I was out of that. I thought I need to buy another tube of that stuff. Well, thanks to you guys, I can. Not only that, but you've now afforded me to get art supplies that I haven't had in 6 months. So I really appreciate that. We're going to go over to the desk right now, and I'm going to be doing, I think we're going to rearrange the format a little bit. Instead of telling you about community announcements, we're going to save that for later on. And I'm just going to start off doing the things that I think you guys want to see most, which is me drawing a picture, since I am an artist. So I'm going to go over there in a bit here and do up a picture of, we talked about this, what should I be drawing for you guys? And it came up, there was a poster I did a while ago with Superman in a World War II scenario, and he was holding his arm out and shells were exploding off his hand. And I thought, well, what a great idea. You know, I'd love to do that. So so that's what I'm going to be drawing when I go over to the desk in a minute here. And it's going to be on very smooth Bristol board. And we're going to be using vine charcoal to kind of start it off. And then I thought, I want to get the drawing locked down before I go in with charcoal, because that's really messy and it's hard to focus. It's hard to deliberate the figure from everything else, because everything's so smeary in charcoal. So I'm going to try something different this time. And that's how you solve problems as an artist, because you're going to encounter them every single day. What I do is as I try to think about it for a little while, like, if I don't want this to smear, what pencil am I going to use so I can give a pretty decent account of what I'm trying to show here with some clarity. So that's what I do. Another announcement that I want to make is, as you guys know, we're trying to hire a lot of people here to help out Janelle and little Keed, along with these live streams here, and we got a cameraman that was working with us at this moment here named Jose, and we want to make sure we can afford him. So that's one of the hundreds of little things that your donations are paying for. So just to keep things as direct and honest as we possibly can, that's just one thing that you guys are really helping to contribute to. Appreciation can hardly be enough to tell you what it's done for us. The only other situation that we have to worry about is sustaining it. People don't really think about things unless there's a reason to. If you're going to think about a certain movie, it's because you saw something about it in a print or a review or something on YouTube, and then you start thinking about it. But other than that, there's no reason to even conjure it up in your brain. So that's part of what we're trying to do here, is let you know that consistency is our best friend at this point. But God, the people that have come to our rescue is just, well, you know, I'm gonna read off some of the names here. Let's go over to the desk, and I'll name some people here that have really done a lot of work for us here. And let's find those people right here. James Helperin wanted to get a commission from me. He wanted me to redo the very first Nexus cover in paint, I hope. And then he wants me to redo one of the centerfolds that we had in the first issue. I didn't bring it over here, so I can't show you, but what a wonderful thing to happen. This guy is actually the chairman of Heritage Auctions in Dallas. Now that is cool. James is at a very high position over at Heritage. If you guys have ever seen their catalogs, a lot of us comic book types are in there because it's listed as comic artist stuff. They also put out books, brochures on animation, illustration art, fine art, as they call it, and a bunch of other stuff. So really appreciate James coming in like that and helping me. I love to do these commissions here. Obviously, they're taking me away from my work, my main work on Nexus, but I'm happy to do it. And even better, I love knowing that I might bring a smile to someone's face when they see the commission. And that's why you've always got to exert yourself full bore when it comes to these commissions. People are expecting you to come through, and by God, you better come through. Music to my ears, I love doing that. My friend John Morrow from Two Morrows Publishing sent in a very nice donation. John Van Hassel also sent in a sizable donation. I think the proper thing to do is to thank these guys over the air here, so that's what I'm trying to do. And a guy from the Comics Journal. I didn't even look. The Comics Journal was still even going, but his name is Zach Raberoff. And he works as an editor for the Comics Journals, and he wants to do an interview. That can't hurt, right? I don't mind doing interviews. A friend of mine, actually I don't really know him that well, but his name is Kevin Boulderman. And he sent in a request for a commission where Superman's going to be in there. And the first commission I did for him is going to be looking something like the recreation I'm going to do here in a little bit. And finally, almost finally, is Mike Manley. He's a local guy here that does a lot of good work for the comics community. and I want to thank him for writing in. Finally, Jed Powell bought a bunch of Wonder Woman with kitty cats at the fair, or dicks as I call them. If you guys haven't seen this thing, this illustration that I did, it's got a story behind it, and it was a long time ago when the editor, I'm trying to think, I hate this. The editor at DC, the art editor, called me up and wanted me to do some covers for a Wonder Woman. I said, sure. So I sent in a couple ideas. He liked them, and I sent him another idea, and he didn't like it. It was called Wonder Woman at the Fair. So this wonderful thing that everyone seems to get a kick out of, and I obviously got a huge kick out of doing it in the first place. It was very thorough with its research. I did it anyway because I didn't care what he wanted me to do. I finished the other two in oil paint, and they turned out very good. Mark Chiarello, that's the editor. So he said, yeah, do the first two, and the last one with the kitty cats, dump it. Right. Roger Langridge sent in some pleas for buying stuff on the digital part of our lives here, which I know nothing about, but Janelle and Super Little Key do. Anyway, what a nice group of people there that sent in their stuff. Okay, so we got a $5 donation, which is fine. If we could ever get everybody to do a $5 a month donation, imagine what that would add up to. It would be just wonderful. And the Patreon members that we have, everyone wants paying Patreon members. And the lowest category we have, which is just fine with us, is a $5 a month thing. If you're good with that, that'll be wonderful. A couple of things I've been working on. I'd like to show you what I've been working on. We last talked 2 weeks ago. Speaking of dicks, here's a worthless orange dick right here, like Boda. Boda was an orange dick. And I did that for the Super Little Kid, because we were Super asked for art lessons, my little daughter Super, and we decided to work in watercolor with the sows. I call them the sows and the dicks. Whenever a dick approaches me, I say sow, and they say sow back. Even Squeakin' Dick, who has the highest pitch sow that I've ever heard before. So there's mine, and the Super Little Kid did her version here. A fine one, if I must say. So that's kind of what goes on behind the scenes here. There's also tons of stuff that you guys don't see that goes on here. I see I have some books down here. I guess they want me to show them. Nexus Return to Earth is a behind-the-scenes look at how everything is put together with me doing a comic book. And I must say it's pretty eclectic, because if you're expecting me to do the way normal people do things, you're going to be a little disappointed. I just do things in a very weird way, but it fits me, and I know exactly what I need to make it work. It's just that when it comes to people asking me when something's going to get done, they get an answer of, I don't know, which is the truth. So that's the soft cover. Hardcover. Geez, I don't know if you guys like hardcovers or soft covers, but this is the hardcover version. They look kind of different, don't they? Soft cover, hardcover. We've had a lot of people ordering this book, and I love the fact that it's different from all the other books that talk about how things are put together. So me being me, that's hardly a shock. I don't know if you guys are into fashion illustration, but I love this kind of stuff right here. This is just something I wanted to show off to you guys for something I've been working on, is trying to learn fashion illustration. I have done it before, but there's a certain look to this stuff that I just love. And if we're zooming into this stuff, you can see clearly what this looks like. I don't know who this guy is. I think he might be a guy from LA back in the 80s. But he was fantastic. Every day he had some art in the Los Angeles Times for the fashion section. And I managed to collect a few of them from the LA Times when I could find a way to get it. And I would cut these things out, but this looks like his work, and he's he's dead on accurate. And I don't know if he sells stuff just through the drawings alone, but the fact that everyone uses photography nowadays, and some people have the cleverness to introduce something that is atypical, like drawings of fashion stuff you can buy for the different stores they're working for. I think it stands out by contrast alone. More cool stuff. This is the way it looks right here. Oh, we got a back view here. Always fun, because you can avoid drawing faces if you can't do that. This is superb work. I think it's done in charcoal and something else. Oh, this one's delightful right here. I don't know what it's done with. I think it's charcoal, but I'm not sure. Anyway, no matter what medium you work with, you can do anything with it. Whenever I see something in a magazine that looks like acrylic, I'm saying you can't do that with acrylic. This looks like oil paint. But in fact, you can do anything with any medium, and that's something you learn to pick up on very quickly in your career, because there's no such thing as a methodology that you can't use with different kind of paints. You can make it look like anything, depending on your skill level. So yeah, I find this stuff adorable, and I really want to learn it better. We're going to start in our Superman drawing here, and I've got a couple things I want to show you guys. One is the pencils here, okay? And they're charcoal pencils. This one is a Derwent colored pencil. It's black, and that's the one I'm going to use to outline stuff. And then we've got vine charcoal, which is very soft and very light, and then the dark stuff. So let's start off with, how about if we start off with the pencil right here, okay? So I started this to make sure this was going to be a comfortable thing for me to do, to work in charcoal on this paper right here. Let's bring out the vine charcoal, okay? Let's see how this works. You can't really see this, but I've got a little red area indicating where I want the light to really blow out. So I'm going to be moving this around this direction and that direction, and hopefully the camera people can keep up with that. Here comes a little finger. Everyone uses their little finger in charcoal. And if they don't, they're using another finger. Some people use a tissue, some people use paper towels and whatever. But it all comes down to the same thing. You're trying to introduce tone into your pictures right here. So as far as how to do this right here, I'm not really sure. I think what I want to do is keep Superman kind of a silhouette. Can you guys see that okay?
Yeah.
All right, good. This isn't how I intended to do it, but once you start, you keep going with whatever you want to, whatever you think is going to work here. When you're working this broadly, you're actually kind of working like as an abstract. Because if you turn it around, it's just these weird shapes. Actually, that looks pretty good. I'll keep going. And this is what I practice all the time is things like this. I think the way I want to do the rest of this, I want to make sure that this area on the hand is completely bleached out. And this is, I think from now on, we're gonna make sure we start with what you guys want to see rather than what we want to read to you. And I certainly approve of that. Hey, I'm a fan too. I know what you guys want. Gino's always asking me, well, if you were watching Jack Kirby, what would you want to see? And the answer is always, I want to see him draw. Gino says, would you like to see him talk about what he does and how he does it? No. I don't care about hearing Kirby's backstory. in life. I mostly just want to hear, I want to see him drawing. And if he wants to explain a little bit about what he's doing as he's doing it, fine, I'm not going to stop him.
In that shot and blocking the piece bit.
Did you hear that, guys? The nerve of these people telling me how to draw. Okay.
It looks good now.
Of course it does. Of course you are. Hello, my name is Plenty. Of course you are. So let's bring in the other pencil right here, which is over here. How did it get over here? I have no idea. And we're just going to get a kind of a deal going on here, where I'm going to kind of indicate little things like eyes and, you know, the features, that kind of stuff. Hopefully this lead won't break like it always does usually. But it knows it's on camera, so I think it's going to behave itself. You can see how long the lead is in this thing. That's because that's the way we learned to do it in art school. You notice how the head has a certain dimension to it. It almost looks like this, doesn't it? That's it. It's like a block of wood or something. And all artists learned to bail themselves out of trouble by breaking everything down to a simple shape. Everyone in the art world knows about this. We all do it pretty much the same way every time. For people that aren't geniuses like Kirby, who have to actually, construct the figure first, this is the way we all generally start to do it. So we're going to use the kneaded eraser to do what we always do here, which is carve out the light shapes. Oh, you guys know how to do this here. I'm obviously talking to people that are well versed in how to do anything. We tend to have a genius level audience here. But I'm happy to go over it in the event that there's one guy who is not a genius out there. So let's see. We're going to get into the heavy stuff here. This is the part that gets all over your hands. And if you'll allow me to focus for a second here. Some of the people behind the Rude Dude stuff says, well, Steve, you don't have to talk all the time. Why don't you just draw and stay quiet? That comes from my sense of if you want to entertain people, you have to keep talking to them. And that's just not true. Half the things on YouTube have nothing to do with people talking. There is this complete silence. So let's reinforce some of this stuff right here. We talked about this, me and Gino and Super talked about this. Even some of the pets got it in on the act. But we're going to be selling this for just a couple $100. And that couple hundred is going to, in my mind, in their mind, and everyone else's it seems, it's just little stuff that's going to pay for stuff like a cameraman to come over here. We pay him $100 a session, and on top of everything else that one has to deal with in life, financially, this is where it goes to. Nothing is squandered. Everything has got a very strict purpose of where it's going to go to. And that's mostly 100% due to Gino Giannelli, because she is the one that controls really everything that goes on here. I just draw the pictures. Well, it seems I can't keep quiet, so I'm just going to keep talking. This pencil is not working on this stuff. This is a general's carbon sketch. So I always say the drawing isn't working out right, just blame it on the tools. That's always the way to go. Okay, so we're moving, get a little closer right here. This ground should not be dark. I got carried away, and there will be severe punishment for having done that. Because I want the light to hit the ground too. And the other thing I want to stand out is cast shadows here on the ground. If you want smooth when you go to charcoal, just use your finger. So we've got kind of a semi-coherent thing going on here. I don't really like doing these things in front of people, but since this is what live streams are all about, I just got to suck it up. Another thing I want to tell you about while I'm doing this is the last convention I went to was in Baltimore, and I just got informed that they were going to be doing a banquet Saturday night where everyone's getting really dressed up and all that stuff. And I said, well, hey, I'll volunteer. Maybe I could talk about one of the subjects you guys want someone to talk about, and that's Dick Giordano, the main art editor at DC for a long time. So here's what I did that was like the worst imaginable thing I ever could have done for anything that I do. I tried to memorize it. I just tried to think about all these cool things that I wanted to bring up, having known Dick for all these years. And I just can't do that. I can't premeditate things and make it work. It does not work. So all you guys that sit in front of the mirror and practice your speech, I wish I could do that, but I can't. It just turns out so bad. And true to form, that night, I delivered the absolute worst talk that I've ever seen me do. And I would know because I'm me. It was absolutely embarrassing. I'm surprised I even survived the process of getting up there with my suit on and trying to be spontaneous. Well, it didn't work. I tried, but he couldn't do it. I couldn't just eat just one. How's this working out here? Well, it's sort of okay. I want to get some. This charcoal is so bloody dark here. So I'm relying on my kneaded eraser here, like everyone does, to pull out the lights. I wanted him to be a silhouette, but I think real-world modifications are being called into action here to actually modify it. Given that I wanted to talk about Dick Giordano and I couldn't, and it was like a deer in the headlights kind of a thing, which I normally is pretty good at. I mean, when I'm doing talks at conventions about what I'm doing, I have a lot of fun doing that. One thing I don't do is I sit down on the table where they have all the microphones. I don't like doing that. I like to get up and walk around. So that's what I do. So let's try to do Dick Giordano take 2 and actually turn it into something that's not ridiculous, like I did back in Baltimore. It makes me shiver just thinking about it. So Dick Giordano, first of all, he was a very nice, fair man, and the thing I liked the most about him was he was always a fan of comics, and you know that by the way he would talk to you when he would come to visit. This was a guy that actually took the time. Him and Pat Bastian would come by people's houses and visit them. all around the U.S. It didn't matter where they lived. They were on a plane trip. They go and talk to these people. Now, I don't got to tell you guys how often that happens. As in, it doesn't. That was Dick. And I remember I was living in Pasadena at the time. And I was doing some work for DC, and they just come over and we just basically just hung out. It wasn't anything formal. We didn't have to get dressed up and go out to dinner or anything. They were just there for a couple hours, and depending how entertaining I was to them and what kind of beverages I offered them, and some of the shrimp dishes I had lying around just for such an occasion, we would hang out and talk. And he was always cordial and just plain interested in what people, other artists were doing, because Dick was an artist. He was an art director of DC Comics. I remember one time he scolded me for something, and I was working on World's Finest. I was doing the original Superman, like I always do, and they know that at DC. And they said, "Steve, this doesn't look like Superman." I said, "Well, Jesus Christ, people, this is Superman. The way he kind of started out and nobody does anymore. Yeah, but we kind of don't, his waist is too high, and, And I remember Dick saying, "Well, please don't argue with me about this," as I argued away. But what the heck. Another thing Dick would do, because he was just that kind of a guy, is when we would have these wonderful conventions back in the 80s, that's what I always talk about, is the 80s, when things were incredible back then. He rented a yacht in the bay of the Chicago River, and he would take us all on a trip that would take us around around the block a few times, James, and we would have a chance to just be in that boat and talk about whatever we wanted to talk about. Me being me, I said, pretty dumb things at the time. Pat and Dick asked me how I got into comics, and I said, well, the first thing I told them was, well, I never read DC Comics. I was just a Kirby Marvel guy. Now that's kind of the way you want to start off things, right? But me being the guy that I am, the Boy Scout, I just told them the truth, hoping they would get something more out of the truth than just some kind of absurd lie. I actually told them, I said, DC is kind of for kids, it's kid stuff. Now us cool guys, we would go right to Marvel and read Spider-Man and all the Kirby comics because they were cool. Obviously, there's no denying that. Let's see how this thing is working out here. It's not a very controlled drawing, is it? And I think this face right here should actually be bleached out. We'll smear it just a little bit, and we'll collect it. We'll collect. What am I saying? We're gonna have some of the things delineated more carefully by using the eraser. This thing is so damn big. Let's just chop it off, okay? Bloody hell. And see if I can make this work right here. So once again, this is what I assume you guys tune in for, is to see me draw something. God, I hate this. These things are so clumsy. How do I ever work with this crap? Well, I had a plan, but it didn't work out. I don't think this pencil right here works with charcoal. Once again, I backed myself into a damn corner here. I gotta hate that. Don't you hate to be backed into a corner? Anyway, getting back to Dick Giordano and what I wanted to say at the Baltimore show, but apparently was incapable of doing that. I remember talking to him on the phone one time about some of the new tools that came out. One of them was something called pen sticks, which are the latest marker thing that everyone jumped on. Well, in fact, they were junk. These things weren't, if they were waterproof, they didn't last long as being waterproof. And plus they would turn color. They would turn into this weird brown color. And nobody wanted that. So when people bought the original art from different artists, they would have stuff that was turning brown. Isn't that wonderful? But we didn't know any of that stuff until we started to use them, and then it came out. You know, oh, okay, well, this isn't going to do here. Since that time, we have really come up on the quality of markers, and we all know what those are. They're the pit pens and the microns. Some people use this stuff to ink with. I will not. I don't do that. I want my traditional brushes and pen points. This out of loyalty to what I think looks good. But markers are. I don't buy that. I don't think they should be used as professional tools. They say they have permanent ink, but who really knows, right? Imagine picking these things out with a little stupid eraser like this. And my great plan to use a different kind of a pencil to make this more delineated did not work. But we try anyway. We aim, we endeavor to try. Let's try putting that ear again. Look at this thing. It's so clumsy and stupid. I just hate working with it. This stuff is meant to be worked with very broadly. This is what it's good for, though, is this kind of motion stuff, because it smears. If you want to put a couple, things like this in there, that's going to help bring this thing to where you want it to in terms of a finished piece. I don't happen to like it very much, but someone might want to grab into this and help us afford the various things we've been squawking about lately. Again, you guys really came to the rescue here, and now I can get more tubes of Permablah, as well as other art supplies that have been outstanding for the last 6 months. God, it's pathetic. But you guys, it all came about because you guys rallied and really stepped up to the necessities of life on Earth. The idea of using this kind of a method right here is to get a general thing going on there, and then hone in closer and closer to what you want it to look like. I think some of the light may be coming through this cape right here, so I'm gonna make sure it kind of reflects that look to it. So we smear it all around, and I don't like it, and so we're going to change some things right here. First of all, I want to make sure this actually looks like it's going into his the cape fitting area. It's also very gratifying to see when other artists want to pick up your things like your how to draw book and things like that. I mean, most of the artists working in comics are already well versed in every fundamental there is. That's the job demands of doing a realistic kind of a strip in comics. But still, it's just very nice to see people rallying like that. Kind of reminds me of this fable we heard when we were little kids, and that is the story of stone soup. You guys know the story of stone soup? Of course you do. But in case you don't, I'm going to tell you what it is. Some guys come into town, and they want to feed the townspeople because they heard that they're really not doing very well. So they set up this big pot in the middle of town, and they start a fire, and instead of throwing food in there, they throw in stones. And when people come up and say, what, are we supposed to eat this stones? What are you guys doing here? Are you trying to kill us? And they very smartly said, I don't know who thought this stuff up, these poems, but they're just brilliant. It's kind of like Dr. Seuss and the Sneetches. And the guys, the three guys that came into town with their big pot to broil the soup, they said, well, right now all we can afford is stones. But if you were to bring some vegetables over, this stone soup would really start tasting good. Nobody wanted to contribute anything at first. But slowly but surely, and surely has nothing to do with that, they started to get people contributing the stuff that goes into real soup. And everyone, the townspeople gathered around, all happy because they realized they had something really delicious to eat. There's another thing about stones, as I recall. I just had it in my head, but of course it's gone now. So I'll just keep drawing until I finally figure out what I was going to talk about. Are we going to ever get that ear in there? Yeah, this is to me, this is kind of out of control here, but that's okay. We don't always have to be in control.
We are 41 minutes in.
40 minutes in? Okay. Did you hear that, guys? 41 minutes in. Normally when I do, the serious commissions, which I wish this was more of, we would normally do, control the drawing part of it, the actual proportions, the outlines, all that kind of stuff. That would be something you really have to lock down. There are other ways to do things. A lot of guys just do things in a way that's kind of abstract, which is a great way to look at a lot of stuff we do. So we've basically got a silhouette here. I'm going to bleach some of this out right here, some of this leg in the background here, and I'm going to bleach out some of this face right here just by taking the eraser and doing my thing with it here. And this is where all the little shapes come in, and the little shapes are always added on top of the main big shapes. And that's how most artists tend to think about what they do. And if they don't, they will be severely punished. Oh, the trials of being an artist. Apparently this little finger deserves an Oscar here because it seems to be doing all the work. And let's bleach out some of this stuff over here too. I don't like long capes on Superman. When I saw the Superman movie with the super cool British guy as Superman, I thought, why do you want to make that cape so damn long? That guy's going to trip. And that goes for any other superhero that happens to have a cape on. I thought it was ridiculous and impractical. They should have listened to me. But then I wasn't making $1 billion off writing a screenplay, was I? No, I'm happy to do what I do at the drawing board here with what I do with Nexus. And I don't get paid for it. But in a way, you do, because the things we've been asking you guys to do in the last couple days actually has been what needs to happen to keep things going. It's a pathetic way to live, but it seems to be the way things have to be sometimes. And we're going to bleach a little bit of this out right here, some of the hair. This is something, you know, a lot of times what I'm doing here is the way a lot of artists start out doing their preliminary black and white versions of what they want. They just do a value study, that's what we call it, because it's in black and white, not color. And the only thing that's not in here is color. But all the tones and all that kind of stuff, that actually is all here, as you can see. Dick Giordano is not with us anymore. He went the way of all mortals and eventually left this world to go be someplace else. Where he goes, it's not known to any of us. And we conjecture about it, we fight over it. We try to downplay what other people think about what's going to happen, but nobody even knows. So I don't know why they even bother arguing about it. It's something that can't be proven until you're dead. Unlike the line that I've heard many times, if you want to know death, you only have to die. What was that other stone thing I was talking about? It's still not coming into my head again. That's a true shame. I think some of you guys watching this know what I'm going to be saying, but oh, it's just pathetic how the memory is failing me here. So let's put a couple of these things in here. I think that's going to help. In fact, I know it's going to help. See, this for the first time, it actually looks like somebody's in light. And that's what I was going for. So Superman is stepping in to watch a missile. I don't know what kind of missiles they had in World War II. I don't know what those were. But we see the film clips from the Pacific area, and what do they call it? The theater, the Pacific Theater. And I've asked friends that know about this stuff. I said, what does that mean, theater? And some of the smartest guys I know say, I don't know what that means. So, but there are more people than just the people I talk to about questions like that are true experts. And I'm sure positive that somebody can write in and say, oh yeah, I know all about the theater stuff and why they call it that. This Superman is the only one I will ever do. And of course, me being me, as I'm wont to say, that gets me in trouble sometimes with people that don't agree with what I'm doing. Like, we want you to do this version of Superman here, the one we're currently doing, and give him long hair. Well, that doesn't really work with me, and I couldn't care less. When people know what you stand for, they learn to know what you're all about and what they can get away with you and what they can't. And for the most part, they just need to really be careful about making sure they don't fool around with me. This is the version I do. I believe in it. If you want me to do Superman, this is what you're going to get. So they're not unaware of my specifications when it comes to how I want this guy to look. So we're just going over a few areas and all this kind of stuff. This little finger is actually kind of forming the outside of the contours here, just by putting that in. And then I can go in with here, in theory, and just pull this stuff out. Let's take a look at it here from a sort of a kind of a distance here. Let's bleach some of this out right here. I think that kind of helps. If you guys know about how everyone knows what looks right when it comes to, say, a human form holding his hand out to explode something that has a great deal of light and flash to it. We all know in our minds what it looks like. And it's up to the artist to make that happen in a concrete, visual kind of a way. Because people that aren't artists, they wouldn't know how to take the image in their head and translate it into something that that actually looks like it is a reality happening.
We are 50 minutes in.
Okay, you guys, did you hear that? We're 50 minutes in. I think what I'm going to do at this point is just stop. I will finish this at a later date for what we're trying to do here, which is for the paid Patreon members. Anyone who puts in at least $5 a month is going to be able to get access to how I finish this here. And I've just been informed here about what I haven't done so far. We've got some homework in art to give critiques to. And we promised to do the community announcements at the last part here. So I'm sure everyone's really still tuning in, right? It is a fact that most people, I'm told, that when they watch YouTube stuff, they're good for about 30 seconds. And if they don't like it, they leave. But I don't think that happens with me. I'm sure every one of you guys that are tuning in are waiting to the very end of this broadcast here. The 226 art book. God, it's another year, people. On January 15th, we're launching our 2026 art book. And because this is the 45th anniversary of Nexus, the book will highlight new Nexus work from the studio. It launches the Nexus family. And that's our code word for longtime fans who have supported us over the years. We call them the Nexus family. And they want to see the process, and they also want to, I think, have some say about how things go as far as future publications go. They help guide us about what comes up next and what we're going to do to make that happen. Show us your support by signing up at steverud.com 2026 SKB. You ready for the next one? Nexus Volume 3, Return to Earth, Studio Preview Edition. We just talked about that earlier. It shows 37 inked pages of Nexus Return to Earth, which is the latest book that I'm working on, writing and drawing and lettering and all that kind of stuff. We have the usual option of hardcover and softcover versions of this book. And we have a lot of copies available today at steverud.com, RTE, Return to Earth. Patreon guys. In full process videos, deals with our crowdfunders, and my most personal notes is something if my personal notes, these guys don't know how to write here. Patreon members are people that support us in the most direct way. They keep the studio going forward. They keep me swimming in white permablah, and the descriptions of this stuff is in your video later on, I guess. Tell a friend. Who doesn't want that, right? How many people have real friends? Even if you have enemies, you can still pass it on to these guys right here. Tell your enemies that you've enjoyed the stream today. Show your support by telling a friend or enemy and leaving a comment for other topics we can cover next week. This is cool. We just hit over 20,000 subscribers. Freaky. You know, I remember we started off with like 60, like 10 years ago. And the line that everyone says that we can't thank you enough, but we can thank you enough because I'm doing it right now. And since this is YouTube, you can leave super chats and stickers to show your support to the studio directly. Optional, obviously, but genuinely appreciated. Today's piece is going for $300 after the stream. This is this one right here. Let me work on it for another 5 hours, and I think I'll have something worthy. In the meantime, I don't think we're going to have time for critiques today, so I'm going to go over that next week. We're going to pull out all the wonderful things you guys have sent in. A wannabe artist, a lot of wannabe artists, and a lot of pros that are already working in the field. And I will do whatever I can to help do any kind of advising or showing little details that could be improved, or big things that should be improved. But at the very least, you know, I'm always going to be honest and always going to be, it's always going to be said in a way that is not overly critical, but it's designed to help you and actually make you more excited about trying harder next time. So I think we're gonna wrap it up around now. This is going to be featured, I think, later on the website, our website, steveroot.com, and I'll let you know how you'll be able to see how it turns out. Okay, so I had some animation stuff I was going to show. I'll save that for next week. I'm always trying to show the latest stuff I've been working on for my Nexus animated TV show that has yet to find a launching pad and has yet to find the right people to help me work on it. So I'm always looking for that. And if I ever find it, you guys will be the first to know. So let's say goodbye to all the kitty cats out there, the dicks and the blowhards, like Flowhard over here. And we'll leave ourselves for this moment in time with a hearty thank you for all your donations. We really appreciate it. See you next week.